Thank you for coming to my channel, Lost in Electronics. We're going to have what we're going to go over today is on how to use Linux. Right now, we're going to start with Fedora, and we'll go ahead and work our way across to some commands for if you want to use any kind of either Ubuntu or anything with the upgade, which is normally your Debian-based operating systems. I don't have any examples of using anything with Pacman with Arch. We'll have another video and eventually onto the future on how to do this. The first thing we're going to do here is we want to upgrade our Fedora incidents. The first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and go into and type in sudo DNF. Then we're going to go ahead and if you want to upgrade, we're going to click on to upgrade. And also at the same time, we probably the best idea to also do an update at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and do both of them at the same time. And what we're going to use is our sudo command. So we want to be the super user do. It looks like I do have an upgrade, so we're going to click on, in my case, I wanted to click on yes. What we're going to do here is it looks like since we already got all the upgrades, we're going to make sure that everything is up to date here. And the other thing you can do is what our nice setter command you can actually use is through the sudo. We can go and do DNF, and if we don't know what the name of the package is, let's say I need to wonder what kind of packages for like maybe run an nmap. So I can click onto we can run the command sudo DNF search and then what you want to use. Or another case is a good program to use that we're going to use is we'll go here is WireShock. That's another one you may want to be able to kind of get used to be able to using because of the network analytics. And then we also have, if you ever want to use, is we also have Python. That's another one that you're going to be a very common programming language you might want to. We'll go ahead and go into future videos and use. And upload a Linux commands is nice to know here is if config, because this is kind of like on if you use Windows and this is the first environment you're using. If config is kind of like IP config, kind of shows your network information, shows your MTU, says your IP addresses for your local connections. And the other thing you can also do, if you want to be able to, we can actually run in there. If you want to see what's on your drives, you can go ahead and go and type in ls, and we're going to go -a so we can see all the directories. It kind of breaks down all the directories that we have currently on this machine. You want to clear the command, we're going to go ahead and clear. And then if you want to be able to connection here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have SSH into or secure shell line. We're going to go ahead and go to the Raspberry Pi. We've worked into a couple other videos in the past on how to use we had to be able to install Pi-hole. So we're going to go through some basic commands and updating after we get the Pi-hole installed in here. So last time we talked about here, we need a username. And if you use the default one, it's going to be Pi. It's a good idea to change that username. And then there is a great documentation on the Raspberry Pi's website on how to do that. If you're not for sure what the IP address is, we can also run an nmap here in a second. We'll show that if we need to here. And I've got the right one here, but we'll go ahead and show you here in a second on there. And then the other command we're going to need to use is sudo apt get, because this is now Debian here, update, and sudo apt get upgrade. And it also tells us to run the remove app and then auto remove. This will clear out some disk space that we don't need here of unuseful applications here. So we have to go ahead, and if you want to install a directory, if you want to install a program, we're going to go ahead and type app get install and then whatever the name of the directory is. In this case, we're going to go ahead and go and pull WireShock. It's going to ask us to install if you don't have it already installed it, and even if you want to install it, you click on yes. In case I don't need it because I already have it on my other machines. The other useful utility is probably to install is going to be nmap. And that will be another command you can always run if you want to be able to run it here. And so it depends on what kind of package, if you know what kind of package you're looking for, which is kind of like, kind of think about it as your Windows install directory you're doing from the command line, kind of like what you used to do if you want to kind of go back to the days of MS-DOS. Other thing we're going to go ahead and go through here is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go back here and we're going to exit out of this currently on this Raspberry Pi, and we're going to show you here on just running some basic nmap scans. So if you don't know, maybe you want to see if your devices are vulnerable or what ports may be open on it. In this case, is we're going to go, since we've been using the IP addresses, we need to set the timing here. So we're going to do T/4. And then we're going to do all A because we're gonna, if we didn't know what it's going to be identified, and then we're going to put in the address assignment for what we're trying to use. In this case is 173. It's going to take a second to be able to run, and it's going to scan the Raspberry Pi and let me know what ports are currently open, so that way we can make sure if you don't already have a firewall that we can that you can be able to see what kind of ports. Now we do have, if you do have a firewall, which is a good idea to install even on those devices. What it tells us is when we have, since we're running the Pi-hole, we can use this port 53, which is the common domain name services that we use. And then we also have SSH, so we can actually remote into it. And it tells us which ports you're going to be able to use. And if you want to run it across the whole network, we could be able to do that. It's going to take us a little longer. But all we'd have to do is to do this here. If we want to make it just to do the first 20 addresses, we can also do it depending on what kind of network here is. If we want to go ahead and run a Class B network, we can go to 16. So what it's going to do is that's telling us is we are looking at the 16 is a subnet mask. That's a Class B. We're telling it we want to run it from the whole 10.2R router address, so we can be able to know what's in there. And this is a good way we can be able to show what kind of information you have. If you don't want to log in your router, this is a good way to check what kind of port numbers you're going to have opened here. And let's go ahead and use the other utility, which is that's going to good to know how to be able to use. As we're going to go ahead and pull this up here in a second. Which is going here is that this is what's going to happen if you want to see somebody is trying to scan your network here. It's going to go on WireShock, which is going to show all our interfaces. So we're going to go ahead and click onto any in this case. And this is going to show us here. We'll show that somebody here is notifying that we are trying to be scanned because you're showing that my address is trying to communicate with all these devices here. So this shows you everything going across your network. If you want to filter by certain traffic, like we can type in HTTP and those will show just our HTTP request. So if you want to see what's going on through the network, those show you what connection, it tells you where it is. So it's good to make sure you have HTTPS request because that means it's encrypted here. And if you want to be able just to show there, we want to filter. The other thing is we want to see just our DNS queries. We can see that. Or maybe you want to see maybe if somebody's just going to Cloudflare, we can also request, we can also pull here, it's IP. And then we can have whatever address we want to happen. In this kind of case is we can look at everything just come to the router here through our address assignments. And it shows my machine trying to query everything through the network. As you see here, this is indicating that we are running this information. We are running our nmap in the background. So that nmap is kind of, it allows you to kind of look at what ports, make sure we can have a security, make sure everything's set up here. That's a good why you always want to make sure that you are using the firewall so that we can try to block some access and also allows the ports to be locked down. There's other ways we can be able to go through that'll be a little bit more anonymous, so that way it would be able to kind of there. But this is, if somebody's watching, this is what you'd be able to see, so you can actually see all the acknowledgement of your devices trying to query all the devices here. And if you want to know, you can, it'll kind of goes in through here. And then if you're going to have it where if you want to be able, just we'll use example since we know the 173 here was a. So you came back with all the devices on the network here. This is all my devices here that shows connected here. It tells me the unified local, that is the Dream Machine Pro that we talked about in the past. It tells us what ports are open and what's being used here. Tells us what's running in the background and all that information here, so you can actually see a little bit more information. Other thing is it's telling us here if it would have, what's going to happen, we're also going to go look at our logs here in a second so that we can be able to look at, we should be able to see a new log here in a moment of our and then we're going to go ahead and go to threat management. And we're going to also go today, we're going to filter our traffic out since we are just been the 12 o'clock, so we should be able to see it. You see right here, it says we have 44 requests because we did show that we have attack here. Here is all the thing we scanned here because we ran an nmap scan, so it did trigger our to our firewall here, indicating that somebody tried to trigger an event here because we run the nmap scan, so we are notified of it. This is what happens when you do run an nmap scan, and you have some kind of IPS system, either like something like Saracata or building the our unified network or the Dream Machine Pro. We've had a previous video about this, but this is what happens when you run through an nmap scan.